energy. It's a disaster-prone area, so also in that, like having a strong agricultural livelihood, and also engaging youth in climate action. So different ideas came to having this sectoral focus. And after having the pilot, the main results, what we found, obviously, young people, they formed young kind of committee to do the works, to oversee the climate smart village pilot, technologies, considering different sectors. And young people, they were part of global climate justice movement. And they also co-created different climate smart business in the village. So the learning from this pilot, as I can say, we can cluster the learning in three major areas. So one area is obviously linked to the youth leadership. We found that to do this kind of pilot, we need to develop their leadership at four different levels. So firstly, in terms of knowledge generation and sharing, then taking community level action, developing and managing their own organizations because some young people were dropping, and also claiming services from the government and other agencies. So at these four levels, then there were some challenges we have identified. We found that in terms of long-term and scale-up challenges, motivating youth in a climate vulnerable location is really challenging because they take different actions, but at the same time, they face frequent, climate change impacts. So it is a bit difficult to keep them motivated because we are always saying that adaptation has a limit. And then for them, mitigation is not a priority as such. And then leadership succession, because young people who are initially engaged, they're going for jobs and other work. So you need to ensure that leadership succession. Otherwise, this kind of initiative doesn't go on. Then obviously prevailing gender and social norms often blocked participation of young women. And finally, if we talk about the youth innovation for green jobs, because we try to focus on that, what works? We saw that those models which can bring economic and health benefits, so immediate benefits for the community, those kind of pilot or those kind of initiatives work. So obviously ecological benefits are important, but to motivate people in climate vulnerable area, that's not enough. And then when we can link them with government and private sector business, even if the project ends, you can still continue those kind of initiatives. So having that sort of focus is really important. And then initial joint investment in terms of time, labor, and money, because NGO, Oxfam, they were involved initially with resources for green enterprise development. So in that kind of location, that initial investment is really important. As you can see some picture, there was a ponds and filter which was kind of abandoned, but through this pilot, a model was like solar operated ponds and filter was, it was reinvented. Young people, they were engaged, they kind of formed an enterprise to generate some revenue through that. But there was some initial investment from the project, but then young people continued that initiative. So I would stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalid Bhai, for giving us the detail of what was being done in the Climate Smart Village. But we also have Shoroju Roy from the very village where the Climate Smart Village initiative was implemented. সরজু আপা, আপনি আছেন? আমার কথা শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? হ্যালো আপা? আপনি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন আমার কথা? Looks like we are having another technical difficulty, but we would still like to hear from Ms. Choraju Roy about their experiences, what they have actually done, and how it felt for them, and what they see in it. So bear with us for the moment while she is connecting. Meanwhile, maybe we can move to Mehdi Bhai. Mehdi Bhai is here. We can see. Welcome, Mehdi Bhai. We did introduce you while you were not here, but we know that you have
Yeah.
been part and parcel of this initiative. So we just heard from Khalid Bhai from a conceptual, I think, background. But being there, really working with the youth champions, how did it go, and your take on this?
Oh, it's a difficult question. So big question, very in a very broader sense. Uh, Thank you, Khalid Bhai, for giving a detailed idea of what was the project and what the lessons we learned from that implementation process. And thank you, Salimul Haq sir, for being here. Mm, Me and my organization Clean have been involved with climate justice campaign since 2008 and working with different national and international organizations including Oxfam. So as you know, we started supporting this youth from Gangarampur area in Batiaghata Upazila of Khulna district in the southwest coastal region of Bangladesh under assistance from Oxfam and also in collaboration with Oxfam. That is maybe the better word. Uh, so you know that climate smart village was a very new thinking at that time, and it is not related with only the energy transition but also transition in economic landscape behavior, mitigation risks, and overall social thinking process of the society. So there were several challenges and several opportunities we had in on the ground because the district of Khulna and especially the village is one of the most vulnerable communities in the country which faces salinity intrusion, high tides, uh, tidal storms. Sometimes it's drought, and sometimes it's flooded due to heavy rains. And the common water bodies are uh, frequently contaminated by the salinity. So it is also to mention that the large scale initiatives to mitigate these problems need some uh, government or initiatives uh, from the authorities, like managing the common water bodies, like managing the embankments, like managing the communication. So that needs some institutional arrangement. So we we took it from took the initiative in three levels actually simultaneously. One is the local youth, second is the different service providers, and third is the government institutions, including the local government. So so through when we started working with the youth, we got that they have several very good ideas and knowledges about from the environment perspective, not only climate change, but the village had its own practice of using traditional medicines. The village had its own practice to manage their local water bodies like small ponds and community ponds. So we took that knowledges, that experiences in our account, and we started working with them. Through that process, the local youth got several trainings on 3R, on climate trees, on resilient, on entrepreneurship development, because the resilience is not related with only the adaptation. It's not only the mitigation also. It's also about the economic development, not to stay at the place where they are now. So uh, through that process, they came up with several ideas of new entrepreneurship development, like high yielding or highly valued crops like new they established several new things in the villages. They initiated that plastic recycling the plastics. They initiated a disaster board in the on the entrance of the village. They initiated signing, took signs from every houses not to use chemical pesticides and to use organic pesticides. They initiated farming of mangrove forest in the villages. They've initiated using integrated pest management. So, so through that process, they learn from themselves. You know, they learn. It's peer learning process. They learn from one to another, and that is how they try to be climate smart. And thanks to Oxfam for supporting them with the seed money, like a capital, so that they started this process. It's a fantastic learning for us. Yeah, we learned a lot from the youths. Not only that they learned from us, it was a great experience from our side. Thank you very much. Thank you, Inamul Bhai.
Thank you, Mehdi Bhai. Thank you. It was good to hear from you. Let's check again if Shorju Appa is back. Shorju Appa, শুনতে পাচ্ছেন আমাদের কথা এখন? আপনি কি আছেন? I understand she's having a problem with her microphone and video. It will be difficult actually. Like without listening to her, this discussion is...
Yes. The button for audio and video is right here in the center of your chat box, if you can see. Saraju, I see your audio is on. Can you talk? Saraju, can you talk?
Inamul, could I step in? This is Salim.
Yes, Mr. Salim, please proceed. I think even Inamul has had
issues. If you don't mind, could I come in at this point, because I'll have to leave after a little while.
Yes, please take over.
Shall I start?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay.
Salim, I guess Inam is also having connection problems. I think you can go ahead.
Okay, so let me go ahead. Thank you all very much for organizing this event and inviting me, and to share your excellent example of the climate smart youth villages that you have been working on. So I just want to...
সরজু আপা একটু কথা বলবেন, তাহলে আমরা বুঝতে পারবো আপনি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন কিনা বা আপনার কথা আমরা বুঝতে পারি।
আমি কথা বলে নেই, তারপরে ওনাকে বলেন। So what I would like to do is share with you a little bit of advice, if you like, and guidance in how to take these very excellent initiatives, pilot scale initiatives forward. We need to be thinking of scaling up pilots. Just doing pilots alone are not enough. Just doing advocacy alone is not enough. We have to do actions. We can start with pilot actions, but then you have to start thinking about scaling up those pilot actions. And the most important thing to remember when it comes to framing something in terms of being climate smart, it is not the activity that is climate smart. It's the people that are climate smart. And it's the young people who are becoming climate smart. And climate smart does not mean just doing one thing and showing you one thing that they've done, but it is understanding the problem and finding solutions to the problem. And those will change over time. As we heard from Khalid, things are not static. problem today you can solve, then tomorrow you have another problem, you have to tackle that. So the whole concept of being climate smart is to continuously be able to tackle problems. A new problem comes up, need to know how to tackle the new problem, and you have to do it by doing, by learning. So you have to do something and learn by doing. So you have to uh, inculcate in the young people the ability to analyze problems, to come up with solutions, to trial solutions, and to then scale up solutions that work. And that is where Bangladesh is, in fact, a leader in the globe on having done this at many different levels by many different organizations, both NGOs like Oxfam, as well as other government institutions and others, and even spontaneously local villagers have been doing this. What we now need to be doing is collectively taking all of this to scale. Just doing pilots is not going to be enough. The problem is just too big. It's overwhelming. It's not just a problem for Bangladesh, it's a global problem for the whole world. And since Bangladesh has a much higher vulnerability to the impacts of climate change, if we can come up with solutions and we can come up with climate smart young people, both girls and boys, then they can be the solution to the problem, not just in Bangladesh, but over time, they can even share their solutions and their experience with other countries in the region, in the developing world, and even potentially with the developed world. So Bangladesh has an opportunity to be a global leader in what we call locally led adaptation, which has a very strong component on young people. The leaders of climate change champions and climate change smart activities are going to be our young people. And we have a huge asset or a huge foundation of young people. That's one of our biggest national assets. If we can invest in them, if we can empower them, if we can capacitate them, and if we can make them into climate smart young people, whether they do be farming or they do businesses or they do education or they do training or they do become civil servants, does not matter where they go. It is not the activities that are important, it's the people's knowledge that is important, the capacity to understand problems, the capacity to take measures to deal with the problem. And the final point I will make is that the big challenge for us going forward, and I would invite everybody in this program to join forces, both at the national level in Bangladesh, but also globally and internationally, particularly in the light of the upcoming Conference of Parties coming up, COP26 in Glasgow in the United Kingdom in December. This will be a big issue. There'll be a youth conference preceding that in Italy. So youth is a big issue, or a big stakeholder group that is going to be involved in these global discussions, and the local to national must also feed into the global. And what I would leave you with is an offer to support you and help you and carry on this conversation about scaling up. Just doing pilots, as I said, is not going to be enough. We need to go to scale. We need to scale up in Bangladesh. We need to scale up in South Asia. We need to scale up in the developing world. And then we need to scale up to the whole world. And the rest of the world can actually learn from our experiences. So we can become a pioneer and a global leader in this locally led adaptation, particularly for our young people, both young girls and young boys. This is a huge resource that we have, that I'm very glad to see Oxfam has been investing in, learning from, and other organizations are doing the same. The government is doing the same. We all need to join forces so that we add value and we can scale up very rapidly. The challenge now is scaling up rapidly, not finding new solutions to new problems, but scaling up the solutions that we already have. And young people can play a very big role in that. And the final point to make is that this can actually be a major economic source of income earning, as well, as we saw in the examples from the villages that Khalid showed us. So the solution lies in not just tackling a problem and averting the problem or managing the risk, but also finding ways of prospering from that, finding income generating activities. And that is the way to sustainability. If you can generate income, then it becomes sustainable and people can learn how to do it and then manage to get an income from doing it, that makes it sustainable in the long term. And a very good point made by Khalid is you have to continue this. Young people will grow older, they will leave the village, they will go elsewhere. The next batch of young people will come and take their place. So it's a continuous process. It's a long-term process. It's not a one-off process. You cannot do it in one project. You have to do it continuously. You have to build capacity continuously. You have to sustain the effort, and you have to go to scale. If you're able to do that, I think you've laid the foundation for doing it. Then I think this would be an extremely useful and successful foundation on which we can go to the next level, which is making Bangladesh itself a climate smart country, with all its citizens becoming climate smart, particularly its young citizens, young boys and girls becoming climate smart going forward. So let me end there. My apologies for not being able to stay till the end, but please do share the output from this event, and then I'd be very happy to follow up with colleagues from Oxfam in saying how we can take this forward going forward. I'll stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hawk.
Salim, Salim Bhai, can I ask you a small question
Sure.
before you leave?
Okay.
Sorry,
No, go
Salim
ahead.
Bhai, I'm just like we are just interested to know, like, when young people are going this type of pilot. So how at the very beginning they can work with the government so that it is scaled up at a later stage, because you work very closely with the government. How they can make the government interested about their model? How
Absolutely.
can we ensure that?
Absolutely. So this is where the organizations like yours, IUCN or Oxfam, all have a role to play. You have connections with the government. You can get the government's attention for these young people. And I would say in particular, I'll mention one thing that is a very big opportunity going forward. And I would recommend that Oxfam, IUCN, everybody get involved in it. It is something called the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. This is now under preparation. It's going to be released very soon. As you know, Bangladesh, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh has become the chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. This is a group of nearly 50 vulnerable countries. Bangladesh chairs that group now going into COP26. And that group has decided, and the Honorable Prime Minister herself has been initiated this, that we want to go beyond resilience. We want to go to climate prosperity, not just managing risk, but becoming prosperous beyond risk. And Bangladesh is the first country, all the countries will do them eventually, but Bangladesh is the first country to prepare a climate prosperity plan. And the whole basis of this is to go for transformational adaptation, not just incremental adaptation. And one of the key elements in transformational is young people. Young people, if we can invest in them, they can transform the country, not overnight, but over the next 10 years. So the plan is a 5+5 year time horizon. The first 5 years is finding the opportunities for investment, both on the mitigation side, in energy side, as well as on adaptation side. And then the second 5 years is investing at scale, huge scale, investing to make it happen, so that at the end of 10 years, we are not making incremental progress only, we are doing leapfrogging, transformational progress. And one element of transformation in Bangladesh, this was my contribution to the plan. I was asked what we should focus on. I said, young people. We have young boys, young girls. They are our biggest asset. If we can invest in them, they will transform the country. We don't have to worry about it. And so I would advise Oxfam, IUCN, immediately the Mujib Prosperity Plan is released, engage, get into it, see how we can help it. It is our plan. We must all make it happen. Don't think of this as government's plan. You go to the government and say, we want to contribute to this plan. We can help you deliver this plan. Let us all join forces to make this happen. And as I said, the challenge is not doing piecemeal. The challenge is going to scale. The whole country needs to be doing this together. How do we do that? Government, non-government, is what we call a whole of society approach. We are on the path to doing that. We haven't achieved it yet, but let us see if we can achieve it. I hope that answers your question, Khalid.
Thanks a lot, Salim Bhai.
Thank you, Khalid Bhai, for bringing this up. I was actually going to ask the same question, but it's good to hear that the discussion has happened. The original plan was to hear from Sharaja before we go to Sir, but we also have another guest today with us who is going to touch upon the exact point of scale up. Mr. Jamaluddin from SNV, and he's going to bring the perspective of how private sectors can help us in the scaling up process. So, Jamal Bhai, if you can take the floor, maybe we can hear from you. And I think we have the right background already.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can you
can.
hear me, Ahmed? Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you very much, the organizer, to connect me and give me the opportunity to share my experience. I'm the person who have the experience to work in both and like offering financial assistance to the provider. At the same time, I had the experience to apply as a apply for funding from the different agency. So I will explain both the perspective. During my tenure with S&P, I used to work with Dutch climate fund, as you know, that is DFCD, Dutch Fund for Climate and Development. So this is a multi-country initiative. There is a huge opportunity to join for the private companies to solve the climate issues and with the entrepreneurial approach. So there are application window in that process. Now, where there is a Dutch bank involved in the financing. So in the earlier stage, there is a technical assistance fund to make the initiative bankable. After that initiative, then the organization will apply for a investment, and that amount is pretty large, starting from 10 million and more. So some of the Bangladeshi organization has already approached the investment, and one of the organization already approved for that funding. Um, the thing is that there are lack of understanding and lack of information of the private companies and to apply that kind of initiative, because there are circulation in online, but we see there are very few applicants applied for that process. Now, after then we personally visited a number of private companies to aware and to build their business proposal on that area. So that is one perspective, and another thing is that there are the funding opportunity from the Green Climate Fund. The PKCB operating this fund. So there is a opportunity for the business organization and entrepreneur can apply for this investment. There are other opportunity for Bangladeshi entrepreneur who are particularly working climate issues. There are a number of foreign investors trying to get in Bangladesh. One of the platform is Asian Venture for Philanthropic Network. So we are just in a collaboration with Dutch Bangla Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Asian Venture for Philanthropic Network. And tomorrow is the conference where they are basically participating in the discussion. So moving forward, they are also opening their entry office in Dutch Bangla Chamber of Commerce, and they will definitely list out the initiative who are interested to expand their business in the climate issues. On the other side, there are in other funding opportunity like CFC. This is also a Netherlands fund who are also a global initiative. So they have their priority to South Asia. So organization who have the mandate to work and expand their business on the climate issues, they can also apply for this funding. And as you know, there is a window period in every quarter. So currently there is another quarter is just starting. So the business who is already ready for the next level, they can also apply for it. This is the one side, the opportunity of the business organization to get in for funding sources. On the other side, I personally involved in a rainwater harvesting project which is now currently operating in the coastal belt of Bangladesh. My experience is that I have joined in a collab, and through that process, the organization already selected for the grant proposal. So only three organizations basically shortlisted for submission the proposal, and we are expecting to have the grant opportunity to solve the drinking water problem of the coastal belt of Bangladesh. From the beginning, I mentioned that I have the experience to work in both ends. So I assure that if the organization is rightly working on the change issues and have solid background and created some evidence on that, then the organization easily can access the availability of fund, and they scale up their business initiative in the next level. I am stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jamal Bhai. I think that was a good overview, especially some of the opportunities that are there for scaling up the businesses. But my question to you, Jamal Bhai, is if we look at some of the small pilots that
Yeah.
Dr. Salim was also talking about, that this is very small or maybe at piecemeal basis. So taking this to scale, what is your expectation? Like how many businesses like this should actually be there to really have an impact at scale, or maybe make it viable in terms of business investments?
Yeah. Every business has a small starting, because piloting is the initiative started to create the evidence and make the business case say acceptable and understandable to the investor. So there are different stages of getting access of the fund.
Hello? Looks like there's a connection issue here. But let us move on. Let us move on to our next, I think the final panel member, Shoroja Roy.
Enamel, Enamel, just one heads up. A couple of audience joined a little late. So for them, if the video that we played in the beginning, if we can play once more throughout the session, that will be really helpful.
Okay, but we do have another speaker, so
Yes,
can
after
we
that.
take that then?
Yes. Yes, whenever that you think is right. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. সরোজা আপা, আপনি কি আমার কথা শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
হ্যাঁ শোনা আছে। হাই
হ্যালো, হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে।
হাই, আমি
শোনা যাচ্ছে আমার
সরোজ
কথা?
রায়। হ্যাঁ শোনা আছে।
আচ্ছা, এখন যেটা দাঁড়ালো, যেহেতু আগে কথা বলা যায় নাই, তো সবাই তো আগে কথা বলে ফেলছে আপনার, তাহলে আপনি আজকে প্রধান অতিথি। এখন সবার কথা কি হইলো আমি জানি না, কেউ কি আপনাকে বাংলা করে বলেছিল এতক্ষণ যে কথাগুলো হচ্ছিল?
না।
আচ্ছা, আমি আপনাকে বলবো। হ্যাঁ, আপনাদের ডিয়ার অডিয়েন্স, আমি অন্যদেরকে একটু বলে নেই। হ্যাঁ, dear audience, since Sharjapa speaks Bangla, and I now will have to translate the summary of what we discussed so far, and we are going to listen to her about her feedback about the whole discussion that we had regarding their initiative. So please bear with me and allow me some time to talk with her and bring her up to speed. আচ্ছা, দিদি, যেটা আমাদের কথা হলো এতক্ষণ, প্রথমে খালিদ ভাই আপনারা যা যা করলেন আপনাদের গ্রামে, আপনারা যে সবাই মিলে যে উদ্যোগগুলো নিয়েছেন, সেই সবগুলো কথা বলা হয়েছে। এই যে আপনারা পিএসএফ করেছেন, আপনারা ভার্মি কম্পোস্ট করেছেন, আপনাদের সংগঠনটা আছে, সংগঠন নিয়ে আপনারা অনেক ধরনের কাজ করেছেন, এগুলো সব বলা হয়ে গেছে। বলার পর যেটা হলো আরো কতগুলো আলাপ হলো, যেমন হচ্ছে ধরেন আপনারা এখন যারা ইয়াং, মানে আপনারা তরুণ, হ্যাঁ, আপনারা তো আস্তে আস্তে বড় হয়ে যাবেন, যারা এখন শিশু তারা আস্তে আস্তে তরুণ হবে, হ্যাঁ, তাহলে এই যে নেতৃত্বের পরিবর্তন, যে আপনারা এখন নেতা, পরে ওরা নেতা হবে, এইটা নিয়ে কাজ হচ্ছে কিনা, এবং এটা এই যে একজনের হাত থেকে আরেকজনের হাতে নেতৃত্ব পৌঁছে দেয়া, এটা নিয়ে একটা কথা হয়েছে যে এটা যদি না হয় তাহলে তো শেষ হয়ে যাবে, যে এখন ভালো হচ্ছে কিন্তু পরে আবার হবে না, এরকম একটা আলাপ আসছে। দ্বিতীয় যে আলাপটা আসছে এটা হচ্ছে যে একটা দুইটা গ্রামে করে তো হবে না, সব গ্রামে করতে হবে, সব গ্রামে করলে সবাই একসাথে জলবায়ুর মোকাবেলা করতে পারবে, আরো সমৃদ্ধি অর্জন করতে পারবে, সবাই ভালো থাকবে, সবাই বড়লোক হবে, কিন্তু কেউ ভালো না এরকম হবে না আর কি। এরপর যে আলাপটা আসছে সেটা হচ্ছে যে আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, যদি করতে হয় তাহলে কিভাবে হবে, এই যে এত গ্রামে হবে, একটা হচ্ছে আপনাদের মতো যারা আছেন তারা নিশ্চয়ই কিছু না কিছু করবেন, কিন্তু সরকার কি করতে পারে, সরকারের কোন কোন জায়গাগুলো থেকে সাহায্য নেওয়া যেতে পারে, আবার বেসরকারি যেগুলো টাকা পয়সার জায়গা আছে যারা ব্যবসা হিসেবে এই ধরনের কাজকে সমর্থন করতে পারে, কারণ আপনারা অনেক কিছু ব্যবসা হিসেবেও করেছেন, এটা নিয়ে কিছুটা আলাপ হয়েছে। এই হচ্ছে পুরোপুরি যেটা আলাপ, যে একটা হচ্ছে আপনাদের কাজটাকে সবাই পছন্দ করেছে, এটাতে কোনো সন্দেহ নাই, কিন্তু সবার কথাটা হচ্ছে যে এটাকে কিভাবে আরো বড় করা যায়, আরো অনেক জায়গায় কিভাবে করা যায়। এখন প্রথমে আপনার কাছ থেকে এই বিষয়গুলো নিয়ে আপনার মতটা জানতে চাই, আপনার কি মনে হয় এটা কি আসলে অনেক জায়গায় করা সম্ভব?
এটা অনেক জায়গায় করা সম্ভব, কারণ আমাদের আমাদের জেলার উপজেলার আশেপাশে আরো অনেক গ্রাম আছে যেগুলো সরকার থেকে কি বেসরকারি থেকে পিএসএফ করে আছে, সেগুলো থেকে ঠিক মতো সারা, আমরা যদি পরবর্তীতে এই পিএসএফ গুলো সারাই করি, বা আমরা যদি আমাদের এই ক্লাইমেট স্মার্ট ভিলেজের মতো যদি আমরা সোলারের সাহায্যে এরকম আরো অনেকগুলো গ্রামে যেগুলো করে আছে সেইগুলো যদি আমরা সঠিকভাবে মেরামত করি, তাহলে সবাই ভালো পানি পান করবে এবং বিশুদ্ধ পানি পান করবে এবং সবাই ভালো থাকবে।
তার মানে হচ্ছে আপনার কাছ থেকে যদি আমি ঠিক বুঝে থাকি, একই ধরনের সমস্যা আছে এরকম অনেক গ্রাম এখনো রয়ে গেছে, তাই
হ্যাঁ,
তো? এবং সেখানে করার সুযোগ আছে। সেলিম স্যার ছিলেন, চলে গেলেন, আপনি দেখলেন না একটু অনেক কথা বললেন স্যার যিনি ছিলেন, উনি এই কথাটা বলতেছিল যে যদি মানে গ্রামটাতে কি হলো সেটা না, আপনারা কি করলেন সেটা না, আপনারা যে সমস্যাটা বের করতে পারেন এবং সেটা সমাধানের চিন্তা করতে পারেন, এটা হচ্ছে আপনাদের মূল আসার জায়গা আর কি। আপনার কি মনে হয় যেই গ্রামগুলোর কথা বললো যেখানে হচ্ছে এই ধরনের সমস্যা আছে, ওইখানে আপনাদের মতো তরুণ নেতারা আছে যারা নিজেদের সমস্যা বের করতে পারে,
হ্যাঁ আছে,
সমস্যার সমাধান বের করতে পারে?
হ্যাঁ সমস্যার সমাধান বের করতে পারবে।
আচ্ছা, তাহলে আমার আমার মনে হয় যে আপনার কাছ থেকে আমাদের শেষ কথা যেটা জানার থাকবে, মনে করেন এই ধরনের তরুণ নেতা যারা, এরকম অনেকে বিভিন্ন দেশের, শুধু আমাদের দেশে না অন্যান্য অনেক দেশেও তো একই ধরনের সমস্যা আছে, তাদের প্রতি আপনার পরামর্শ কি, কি করলে তারা তাদের গ্রামগুলিকে হচ্ছে অনেক ভালো করে ফেলতে পারবে আপনাদের মতো, যাতে কোনো সমস্যা না হয় বড়দের জন্য?
তারা আমাদের মতো প্রথমে সমস্যা বের করবে যে তাদের কি সমস্যা আছে, কোথায় আছে পিএসএফ আছে যেগুলো ওয়াকিজ হয়ে পড়ে আছে, তারা আমাদের যেরকম সোলারের সাহায্যে আর কি ভালো পানি ওঠে, এরকম যদি আরো আশেপাশে গ্রাম যদি আরো কিছু করা যায় তাহলে লোকের সমস্যা দূর হবে, তারা ভালো পানি, আমাদের মতো তারা ভালো পানি পান করবে।
আমরা আমি সবাইকে তাহলে একটু গুছিয়ে বলি এখন। আপনাকে অসংখ্য
আচ্ছা,
ধন্যবাদ, আপনাদের কাজের জন্য আপনাকে অনেক অনেক অভিনন্দন, আর হচ্ছে আমাদের কথা বলার জন্য এবং শেয়ার করতে অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
থ্যাংক
Dear
ইউ।
viewers, we were talking with Shubhra Roy about her experience, and I just shared with her what some of the points that were made, including the scale up, the leadership transformation, and potential resources to take this up for the private sector and the government. And she is very hopeful that there are like so many young leaders across so many villages like hers where similar problems are there, and she believes that these young leaders are capable to identify their problems, and they need to do that, and they are also able to find out solutions for them, and we need to continue investing in them, as not just her, also other speakers in the session, Dr. Salim Haq, our chair, who had to leave early, Nidhi Bhai from Khalid Bhai from IUCN, and from SNB, Jamal Bhai, all of them made the same points. I think we need to take this to scale now and really engage young people in the planning at the landscape level, in every village, in every vulnerable area, and really give the leadership to them and enable them through our investments. So thank you for joining this session. We are out of time, 7 minutes over actually. And we know that for technical difficulties in the beginning, some of the discussions you have missed, including a video. So I'm requesting our colleagues from Picklejar to play the video and let us end the session with that. Thank you very much, and be with Oxfam and our partners in this mission. Take care. Shruti, you can play the video now.
আমি প্রবীর বলছি খুলনা বাংলাদেশ থেকে। আমাদের গ্রামটি মূলত জলবায়ু ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত গ্রাম। এখানে প্রধান সমস্যা লবণাক্ততা এবং খাওয়ার পানির সমস্যা। এছাড়াও বন্যা, জোয়ার ও সাইক্লোনের কারণে আমরা ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত হই। 2019 সালে জলবায়ু বিশেষজ্ঞ একটি দল আমাদের এখানে কাজ করে কীভাবে গঙ্গারামপুর গ্রামকে ক্লাইমেট স্মার্ট ভিলেজ হিসেবে তৈরি করা যায়। সে থেকে আমরা যুবকেরা উদ্যোগ নেই একটি দল গঠন করি এবং আমাদের গ্রামের সমস্যা এবং সম্ভাবনা চিত্র বের করি। এর ফলাফল ধরে আমরা যুবকেরা কিছু কাজ করি। আবহাওয়া জলবায়ুর তথ্য সংগ্রহ করি এবং প্রচার করি। স্থানীয় সরকারের সাথে এই নিয়ে আলোচনা করি এবং আমরা গাছ লাগাই, কৃষিকাজ জৈব সার উৎপাদন করি এবং জৈব সার কৃষিকাজে ব্যবহার করি। গ্রামের আমরা যুবক যুবতীরা নিয়ে প্লাস্টিক ক্যাম্পেইন করি এবং গ্রামেরকে প্লাস্টিক মুক্ত এলাকা ঘোষণা করি। আমরা জৈব সার উৎপাদন করেছি এবং আমরা কৃষিকাজে ব্যবহার করে স্বাবলম্বী হয়েছি এবং প্রোটোকলের সহযোগিতায় আমাদের গ্রামের খাওয়ার পানির সমস্যার সমাধান করি। গ্রামের নারীরা পরিবেশ বান্ধব চুলা ব্যবহার করে, যার ফলে কাঠ কম ভাড়া পরিবেশকে রক্ষা করে। পুরানো পিএসএফ এখন আমরা সোলার পরিচালিত পিএসএফ হিসেবে রূপান্তর করেছি। সেখান থেকে 120টা পরিবার অর্থের বিনিময়ে আমরা পানি নেই। সেই অর্থ দিয়ে আমরা পিএসএফ রক্ষণাবেক্ষণ করি। আমাদের এলাকার সকলেই জলবায়ু সম্পর্কে সচেতন। আমি চাই আমাদের উপকূলের জলবায়ু সম্পর্কে সকল এলাকায় সচেতন হোক।
আমি অলকা রায়, ভার্মি কম্পোস্ট উৎপাদন ও ব্যবসার সাথে জড়িত। আমি EIW প্রকল্প থেকে ভার্মি কম্পোস্টের উপর প্রশিক্ষণ পাই। কম্পোস্টের উৎপাদনের জন্য আমি দুটো শাড়ি ও কেঁচো পাই। পরে আমি নিজের উদ্যোগে 4টে শাড়ি যুক্ত করি। কম্পোস্ট উৎপাদন করা খুবই সহজ, কম খরচে করা যায় এবং পরিবেশ বান্ধব। আমি এলাকায় অন্য নারীদের ভার্মি কম্পোস্ট উৎপাদনের প্রশিক্ষণ করাই। তারা অনেকে সার উৎপাদনের সাথে জড়িত। অতিরিক্ত সার বিক্রি করে ভালো দাম পাইছি, স্বাবলম্বী হয়েছি। আমি এই জলবায়ু বান্ধব গ্রামের একজন জলবায়ু বান্ধব নারী উদ্যোক্তা।
The session is over. Thank you everyone for joining, and let's conclude here. We did have some technical difficulties, but overall I think your contributions made it fantastic. Thank you, Khalid, especially.
Mr. Enamel, can I just request all the speakers to switch on their video so I can just take a screenshot as a group picture?
Thank you.
I think you just made the request.
Thank you.
Yes. Can all the speakers please switch on your video?
I think Dr. Salimul Haq and Hassan Mehdi left, so you have to take 4 of our pictures.
And I have to leave as well. I think actually I have started
Yeah.
my next call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Murli, are you around?
Yes.
Yes, I think everyone has left the session. I think we can end the session now.
Okay, all right.
Just give me 1 second. Let me just.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Murli, you can proceed.
We can end it.
Yes, yes, please. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.